And so today's topic is critical thinking in the 21st century. And I will move on fast and share some of the things that I'd like to share today. And where possible, we are going to have a discussion. And then by the end of the day, we can also have questions and answers. So I'll start by, most of us have already heard about critical thinking. I will move in a sequential manner. What is it? I'm not habitually, I'm never academic. So I will avoid academic angle, the jargons and all that. But I will stay simple as I am always, and just ensure that we are able to communicate and make everything practicable and understandable. So, critical thinking. What is this? There are two words there. There are two words there: critical and thinking. And critical thinking does not mean it's really dangerous or something like somebody could be in the hospital is in a critical position, but it means we put our heads into something in a reasonable, logical manner. We do not just think. It is said that very few people think on earth, by the way, just 2%. How about that? Only 2%. If you meet 100 people, only 2% think. And to me, there is no thinking if it is not going to be logical or critical. The rest could be classified separately. But I know there is what we call emotional thinking. There is the habitual. Emotional, you're just using your emotions. The mind is not involved. Yes, there is no logic involved. You're using your heart. And that is what happens to majority of people. They move with their hearts, not with their minds. We love to say that even when people are getting into a relationship, a lady would move with her heart. A man moves with his mind. When they say I love you, it comes from the head, not the heart. Along the way, it might come from the heart, but most times it's likely to be coming from the head. I've used this to guide many ladies, but for some reason, many of them don't seem to understand. And by the end of the day, they come back broken and feeling let down. So there is a difference between emotional thinking and then logical thinking or critical thinking. And then there is the habitual. Some of us have formed habits of how to do things. Yes, that can also be classified there among other things. But in this case, we are talking about being able to think in a way that gives you good reasons, logical reasons to believe what you want to believe, what you hear. You don't just take it at face value. Yes, like I said, a study was conducted that was showing that 2% think, 3% think they think, and 95% of the people would rather die than think, because it's a laborious thing. Thinking is the hardest labor you can get on earth. And if you're going to engage in thinking, then you know it's going to be tasking. Yes. But the moment you embrace it and you start making use of it, it becomes fun. It becomes your habit. It becomes part of your habitual way of solving problems. So uh, being a searcher of truth, you as a thinker in this case, you want to be searching for the truth. I love, always I quote the University of Nairobi anthem that says, University of Nairobi, we labor all together in search for knowledge and truth. You see, in search for knowledge and truth. And that is what all of us ought to be looking for. You don't just pick things because so and so said it. Yes, because your hero said it, because we had Obama said it, or because we had Kibaki or whoever or Raila said it, so it's true. No, somebody who wants to be thinking critically, you don't think of things, you don't pick things like that because your pastor said it. You see, so Truth, this is my understanding and my theory, what I've gathered over the times, that truth converges and therefore should always have evidence. There should be an agreement when we are talking about truth. If somebody brings in this truth and another, they should be able to converge. There should be some form of agreement. Yes, not inconsistency. And that is part of what we look for when we are trying to evaluate a situation. Yes, it should be able to relate. You are able to stay consistent. It's not something that shifts, that changes every other time. Yes, so there should be evidence. There should be something that makes you firm, you believe, and that makes you to take responsibility. You're not going to do something because so and so told you to do it, but you do it because you accept it. And this is something I love to talk about, more so when it comes to even religion. If you are born a Catholic like me, you may still be a Catholic because maybe you've not been exposed to other faiths. But when you're exposed to others, you may get converted. So there are always two stages of joining. And even when you're running your business, there is that first stage when you may be becoming with your heart or by default. But then over time, as you begin to reason out, you get facts that affirms you into your faith. If you are in pro-life, you may just join because your heart wants you to be there, but over time you start thinking critically about it. But then if you do not find a sufficient reason, you realize that you're out of it. And this is what happens even in marriage relationships. People join with their hearts and then they justify with their minds. If over time the heart, the feeling fades, but you lose that logic or thinking, the reasoning that affirms your thinking, then you break. You see, so thinking is very, very essential in everything we're going to do. Now, we are told that there is a law called the law of use and disuse. Yeah, I don't know whether you people know it, but it states that whatever we don't use, we lose. If we don't use something, we're going to lose it. And brain is like a muscle. Yes, like our muscles. If we don't use them, they shrink, they fade away. Most people do not want to use their brain. Yeah, I used to love asking questions that people consider difficult. And I would realize that I'm mentally torturing people. Yeah, you start asking people, what is your purpose in life? Why do you live? Why do you do what you're doing? And all sorts of things. They find it no. That could you spare me questions? You see, what we should know is that if we do not engage our brain, we start forming a habit of not engaging it. And a long time ago, when we used to have only the Kabambe phones, you realize that when you bought a phone, it did not come with the battery inside. The battery was always wrapped aside, and it was you to unpack it and put it in the phone. Now, I used to view our brains like that, our minds. When we come, brain is the physical substance, but then there is the mind that makes use of that brain. I used to view it like there are people who came with their brains intact and they will go leave the earth with it intact. It's not been used. You see, when they go back to the creator, they go with it as good as new. Actually, somebody said that there are people who from the time they were born, even when they reach 40, their brains are as good as new, not being used, because thinking is laborious. It's the hardest labor that people can engage in. It's very laborious. So our brains are like our muscles. If we don't use them, we end up losing them. We must exercise them. We must so that they remain potent and effective. Now, having talked about that, I'd like to talk about who is a thinker, who is a critical thinker. This is somebody who is a student, inquirer, always looking for answers, looking for solutions. You see, the problem with our education today is that it builds people to get answers. It gives people answers. We are told, you remember, children are taught A is for apple, A for apple. If you say A for antelope, you are wrong. Instead of being taught to look for all the words that begin with A, or all the names, all the nouns that begin with A, nobody tells them that. If you are being given any training, they will tell you, for example, 4 causes of soil erosion. So you only know there are 4. Who said there are 4? Who said they could only be 4? Maybe those are the only ones that people have thought about. There is also, like, I know we talk about the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. I keep feeling like the Holy Spirit cannot be that broke to only have 7 gifts. There must be more, but we are constrained to think that they should only be. So a critical thinker is this person who is always asking why, how, what if, and why not? Why and why not? Yeah, what if? What if this one happens? What if it doesn't happen? You see, so in this type of person, this type of student will always think about also extremes. Yeah, in mathematics we used to talk about a function of x as x, a function of f, a function f of x as x tends to 0 and as x tends to infinite. Meaning, if we were talking about population, for example, we can talk of if population, if there is only one person, that is the x variable, or there is no person, or there is everybody. You see, we have infinite number of people. So we must think of all the angles, all the angles. So that person who keeps asking questions to find the truth, and this is very biblical. Even in the Bible, they tell us, test the spirits, test them. Not all of them are good spirits. Not all of them are holy spirits. There could be some which are unholy. So test them. You see, and we are told people perish due to lack of knowledge. Ideally, it's people perish due to lack of thinking, because thinking will lead you to inquiring, and then you get knowledge. You see, so a thinker is this person who will always want to ask why not, what if, yeah, how. Yes, if people tell you, then we will distribute for you, we will give everyone a laptop, then you wonder how. Yes, we are going to do this. How can it be done? You need to conceptualize it. You need to find a reason to believe. You don't believe because government said. Now, a critical thinker does not rely on authority, or does not over rely on authority. There is something I was taught in communication skills in the university, that one of the fallacies of communication is over relying on authority. There are people who will only talk and only quote one book throughout, or quote the Bible only. Your only authority is the Bible. You see, even if you are going to preach to somebody who is not Bible believing, you need to find some other writings to corroborate. Yeah, that there was this war that happened between Israel and say the Persians. So you want to know which year was it? If this year, is there any other historian talking about the same? Yeah, it's very much acceptable. You see, so you cannot just rely on one authority. It's my mom who said, so it's true. It's my president who said. It is the government that said. No, 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 no. That's not who a critical thinker is. He's more of somebody who wants to verify facts. Yes, you want to verify claim or allegation. Somebody says that that there is life after death. So how do you want to reason it out? You see, you start figuring out, well, how could it be? And by the end of the day, you come to a very good conclusion. And that's the way we build philosophers. It's scientific and methodic. Yeah, they don't just follow masses. By the way, one of the ways to sense whether you are thinking critically or not is to check when you are on the side of the majority, because most times majority don't think, as you said. Yeah, so the moment you realize that you're reasoning like majority of the people are reasoning, you're likely to be on the wrong. So you stop again to think and find a justifiable reason to believe the same thing that everyone else believes. So we are creator of habits. and could do good to make this our habit by always verifying facts, always looking for reasons for us to make informed opinion, informed decision, because therefore we can take responsibility. Otherwise, we will end up blaming everybody else. It's so and so who told me. It's so and so. I saw so and so do it, so I thought I should do it too. No, no, no. We are decision makers. We are leaders, and our lives are a consequences of the decisions we make. Our lives are a consequence of the decisions that we make. So if we don't make accurate decisions, then we are going to be the people to suffer. So we must ensure that every decision we are making is something that is informed by facts. And now critical thinking will involve digging into facts, finding evidence for it, analyzing facts, and interpreting. You must interpret it to make sense, and then you are able to communicate it. You see, when we talk of over relying on authority, there are people who will always rely on a doctor, maybe one doctor. And this doctor, everything he says or everything she says is gospel truth. No, 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 no. It can't be like that. Let's be people who verify facts. And we will see examples. So why should we be critical thinkers? Because we want to solve problems and have long-term solutions. Critical thinkers don't think about today. They will think about years to come. And they are students of history. They are also able to carry forward the history. I remember at one point we were attending a lecture, a master's degree, I think it was a PhD defense by one of the members of our department, which was physics department. And then he brought in other concepts that had already been known. So I remember him being dismissed by the professors. You go read literature. That one we already know. We wanted to know what we don't know as at now. So we must always read literature. We must remember the history. Where are we coming from? Like today in Kenya, many people do not even know why were we changing the constitution and what was the old constitution about? What did we want to change? You see? And so where are we right now? Why have people been talking about first, second, third liberation and all such stuff? If we don't know that, we are likely to make big mistakes. So the other thing now, I was talking about why. So why entails also avoiding problems. We want to avoid problems. In Proverbs, it's written that a wise man sees problems coming and avoids them. But the fool literally walks into problems and then they suffer the consequence. So by not being able to think critically, we lose in money, we lose our resources, we lose our lives, we lose our businesses, we lose lots of things. We can always avoid trouble when we just choose to engage the element of thinking and it becomes our habit. And through this, we also create solutions. Now, I want us to go through certain examples, living examples that we've gone through. And I will start with now solving problems. Recently, COVID came in, yeah, COVID-19. And there were two types of people. There were emotional thinkers, people who only moved with emotion and masses. We are going to die. This thing is deadly. And all sorts of things without verifying any facts, without looking at numbers and all such stuff. And the merchants also used that emotion to drive in certain agenda. And these are my theories, by the way. And you don't have to believe me. But I'm trying to jog your mind that you may also come to think about it. So let's ask, during that COVID, when COVID came in, yeah, how many took time to verify whether it exists? You can raise up your hand if you did. What did you do to verify that really there is COVID? Yeah, besides seeing somebody maybe sick and they claim that he has COVID. Maybe if you are tested today, you'll be having COVID. Anybody verified, or we just relied on Ministry of Health and one story? Good, you know better. Yeah, I'm seeing some hand, Catherine. Thank you very much. Yeah, what did you do to verify? if you are willing to share.
Hi, good evening. So, what I was doing, especially because we have a lot of fake news. Like I remember we had these clips showing people just falling down. I contacted people in the countries we were being told it so much, and you could find out that it was fake news. And also, there was so much information, even from some of the people who have been part of making the solutions for the same. So I read a lot, and so I would tell when we are being told, and even when some medicines that are helpful are being told they're not helpful, I would still follow up to see people who are talking of they've used them and they have helped them. And actually, I did get some that were also helpful to some of the people here. So yes, it was there. I was not thinking emotionally because it was just like another cold for most people. It was not that bad. So it helped me keep calm with the family. Thank you.
Uh, thank you very much. So the idea is we need to engage our thinking before we accept just a proposed idea. Yes, do we have reason for our belief, or it's just that we are told? I'd like to ask a question about that. I do not want to go into the details of whether it exists or not. That's your research. Yeah, the question is, what was the use of thermogun? Anybody asked that question and found the logic behind it? I remember in our estate, our security company proposed that we should buy two so that they keep them and they test everyone at the gate. Yeah, it was interesting. And residents wanted it. Apparently, I'm the chairman for homeowners. So when it comes to expenditures, I've got to also agree. But to me, I didn't see the logic. Anybody who saw the logic and can help me, because throughout my life, people were always had fever when they had malaria, when they had fever, when they had flu and all these other things. So putting somebody aside simply because he has fever, that to me is not COVID. It's not necessarily COVID. You see, it could be, but it's not. If it could be, and I keep saying if it exists. And I love to talk about this even when I'm talking about religious things. Yeah, I talk about we are going to heaven if it exists. I picked that language from our school of physics. Everything you give it some benefit. You see, so uh, I realized again. I asked these security guys and even the people in the committee. One of them is a doctor and respected. I asked, so now let's assume somebody is coming from work. Yeah, he's okay. Everything is okay. Then you test him, and maybe that the temperature is 38. What will you do with him? Oh, you see, we will put him aside. Then what? Where do you take him? This person is going to his own house. He's not coming to your own house. Wherever you want to take him, will you pay for him? If you want to quarantine him, will you take care of him? The government wasn't taking care of anybody. They quarantine you, they start asking you to pay. And when they were told to pay for people, they were not paying. They stopped it. You see? So the idea is let's have a reason to justify any decision that we are making. You see? Now, I also want to ask this. There are people here who are pro-life. Uh, what is the difference between corruption and murder? Whether you are killing inborn or big people and corruption, what is the difference? Anybody would like to say? Yeah, you can defend life and you will elect somebody else to lead you who is corrupt, maybe because he says I'm against abortion. What's the difference between murder and corruption? Anybody would like to say something about that? Yeah. No one. Chris, would you like to say something? I saw Chris here. Yeah. Okay. The truth is, it's not there. Yes, Chris. What's the difference between corruption and murder?
Okay. Maybe I think it is a tough question that requires maybe I do some research. But murder, I would say, is getting the life of a person. Corruption, maybe in the secular way of thinking, people think it's about money, but corruption, it's a rot that maybe I would say it's a dishonesty. Dishonesty in whatever you're going to do. Actually, it's a vice. I would say it's a vice. It's a dishonesty in everything. Money, whether it's on life, whether it's land, whether on everything. But murder is taking.
So somebody, thank you. Somebody picks all your money that you are supposed to put in a hospital, and now people go there and die because there is no medicine. Somebody like in our county, people are on strike because there is no medicine and they are not paid. They are not paid. The workers, hospital workers, are not paid. So this person, what is the difference between him and somebody who kills you? Because you're going to die anyway. Then when you die, they come and donate some 5,000 for your funeral, and then you tend to love them. Yeah, this is the person who kills you. You see. So the idea is, the moment we start engaging our thoughts very well, we are going to find better solutions and we will reason much better. You see. So there are different ways of killing. Yeah, somebody is taking a rope to kill himself, and somebody is eating some food which will ultimately cause the death. So the question is, what's the difference? Maybe one is just taking longer, but it's all killing self. You see. Now, let's go to another one on economic front. Yeah, you realize that certain companies, for example, they may consider people want more sales, but they say we don't have money to train our salespeople, so we are waiting to have a sale and then we train our people. See that type of thinking, that we want to get money, but our salespeople don't know how to do it. So let's wait until we get money, so they should be able to sell first. Then we get extra money, then we train them. You see, that's the same thing even when it comes to buying a book. I don't have money to buy a book, so let me. People will always avoid buying a book, while maybe through the book they would have learned something that would help them to get more money. But they think of the pages in a book as if they are valued in terms of money. The book is literally free. The knowledge is free. People are only compensating for the expenses of printing and all the labor. But you cannot buy knowledge. You see. Now, in governance, critical thinking, we closed schools when we had one case of COVID, and we lost a whole year, and now all the parents are struggling with four terms in a year. We reopened schools when there were thousands and thousands of cases, and if you checked the 2 years, we've lost just about 5,000 people allegedly to COVID. Then you want to see where the sense comes in. Now, contact tracing, that was something I didn't make sense out of. You see, we are chasing the wind. Yeah. So in every facet of life, there is always some degree of thinking that is required. You don't just pick things blindly. Gone are the days when you would blindly trust in a doctor, blindly trust in a pastor, blindly trust in your government. And that is why we are talking about 21st century. So the challenge that we have today in the 21st century is that information is overload. There is information everywhere. Yeah, there are all sorts of researches, and these researches are funded by some other people with interest. You see, so we've got to be people who are able to evaluate, dig into the big data. We are talking of big data right now, and be able to understand and filter in the information. You see, somebody came up with fact checker. How many of us have ever thought about who owns fact checker? Or was it created by God? Yes. Anybody who ever tried to find out who owns fact checker? Yeah. Yeah, remember it's also owned. And what if the person owning the fact checker is the same person who peddles rumors and then verifies the facts using their own fact checker? Those are critical thinking questions. Now, let's talk about who should apply critical thinking. Yes, who? Let's take, for example, right now, people who are in the Supreme Court. Judges are expected to be able to think critically and visualize how the situation is and give justice. But then the other people who are defending or who could be trying to argue a case also want their case to look as genuine as possible. And they are also supposed to engage in critical thinking. Everyone in our day-to-day life, a doctor is trying to solve a problem. The reason they give wrong diagnosis is because they don't engage a lot of critical thinking. Enough of them are built on rote education, rote learning. If somebody has this symptom plus this, this person has this, is suffering from this disease. You see, they are unable to interpret data. In IT, for example, we troubleshoot problems in the computers. And it's through tests. You test this could be the problem, and you start with the simplest solutions as you graduate into the most complex ones. The same thing, whether we are talking about police officers, those are people who should be thinking, because that is the only way they will figure out where the problem was, who caused the trouble, and do their investigation. And that's why we talk of intelligence. I really wonder whether how they make use of their intelligence. But those are places where we really need people who can think. When you have a security guard at the gate and there are people who don't think, they will never arrest crime before it happens. Instead, they will be people who chase after the wind. Yes, they react to situations. They will not detect it. You see, in teaching, a good teacher will be able to make a student be a true learner, so that by the end of the day, they don't finish school, but they start school. They start that urge, thirst for knowledge, and keep learning and questioning nature and having answers. It's not about remembering facts and you are replicating them in exams and getting everything A. That's why many people don't do physics, because it entails application. You use the knowledge that you have and then you apply them to find a solution to a problem. You see, so we must know that in every area of our lives, whether we are artists, whether we are builders, if we do not engage critical thinking, then we are not going to grow in our careers. We are not going to be leaders to solve problems, because as we said that thinking is the hardest labor, then it therefore means that a leader, I usually say leadership is the hardest, because a leader engages in thinking. If we have a leader who does not think, like some which I was seeing yesterday but one, some South African leaders were making very interesting statements that really show that there is little thinking involved. Yeah, the brain is on vacation. Yeah, so we must know that in each and every area of our calling, we are called to engage in critical thinking so that we can justify our belief and own it and take responsibility. So how do we do this? How do we go about doing our critical thinking? It's asking questions. Why do we take this? Why do we take this vaccine? Yeah, what justifies it? Yeah, what if I take it and then it backfires? Is there any remedy? Yeah, or what if I don't take it? Or what is likely to happen if I don't take it? Is it justifiable? Yeah, which one is lesser dangerous? Which one is less risky? Which one is really riskier than the other? Yeah, What if I make this decision? What if I fire these people? What is likely to happen? Yeah. What if I steal the votes? What if I steal election? What is likely to happen? Where will they go? Yes, they will go to the Supreme Court. Then what? What will I do when I reach there? You see, it's like playing. I love the playing of chess and even the drought, that draft thing. You always think about what will be the next move. What is likely to happen if this one happens, in order to come up with a solution that will last and that you will be able to justify. You are able to analyze data and figure out without being influenced impartially, and then you make up objective decision. You do not just come up with a decision because somebody recommends it. Yes, even when you read a book, I was taught read, then make up your own mind. Let what you're going to do, your conclusion, be a subject of your own thought, a fruit of your labor, fruit of your thinking. You see, that's the way it works, and that's the way you can become better, not picking everything wholesale. I used to see in school some people copying, they copy including the dots and commas, and where you cross, they cross too. You see, we dig and we stay open-minded. That is another thing. We must stay open-minded that you could be wrong. And that is always a good place to start. I could be wrong. Where could I be missing it? You see, but if you always feel like you're always right, you're going to make big mistakes. Start from, well, what if it's true? What if it's not true? Yeah, then dig into what justifies that it is true. Now, I love to recommend that you start from known to unknown. Because I started by saying that truth is consistent, number one. Number two, truth converges. There is no, I love quoting Gautama Buddha, who says, three things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. So truth must be consistent. So we can start from what we know. For example, we know that uh, when let's talk about the vaccine. We know, for example, that a mutilated variant of that very virus is put into our bodies, and then our bodies develop immunity. And after that, then we should be able to resist that particular disease. You see, from that basic principle, now you can grow in. So how long does it take to ensure that we are safe? What is it? What is known? I want to give you a story. When COVID was coming in our Rotary Club, a doctor said that it had not been declared in Kenya. It was like in February. In our meeting, he said that in Australia, they've used hydrochloroquine and it's working fine. So if you have it, if you can get it, please keep it. I said, that's nice. We asked, where can it be found? Is it something that can be bought across the counter? Said, yes, if they need any prescription, just let me know, I will prescribe it. Then you go buy. Along the way, there were several other people who spoke the same thing until the American frontline doctors talked about it, and then it became a political issue, and then it's not working. The French people produced a paper, some scientific journal, verifying that it works, but it was already a political issue. You see, then there was the ivermectin, and then all sorts of stories. So the question is, if it is true, it should be consistent along the way. So you hear that Australians have used it, it's working. India, they've used it, it's working. US, a number of people are using it and it's working. But then why is somebody saying it's not working? You see, because if somebody gets healed, everyone sees. Yeah, then you start questioning, maybe there is something here that we don't know. So we must dig in, we must start from known to unknown. And this is why I was saying we need to start, we need to be people who remember history. We remember where we came from. And I love to say that you cannot experience the same problem every now and again. It means there is something wrong with you, not the problem. You need to find a way to overcome it. So if we remember history very well, we will be able to solve or to address some problems in future based on the experience that we've gathered. If we do not have history then we are not going to be good students of critical thinking. Yes, we must know what made the Nandi to be able to resist the colonialists, the British. Yes, and then with that knowledge, we are able to figure out what can we borrow from that to be able to resist some other day. Yeah, what made the Maasai to collaborate? How did they do it? If you are a Bible reader, you can read now in the different stories. What was making David so much of a hero? How can we apply that? If we do not remember history, we are going to commit the same. And then it means we are not being critical thinkers. We must dig into that detail, starting from known to unknown and building on that fact. We must connect the dots. Sometimes when something happens, there is what I call the theory of unrelated facts. Yes, a dog bites you, but then there is also maybe rainfall, and you want to relate them. Could there be a relationship? You see, so by sometimes allowing your mind to just think wildly, you may be able to relate certain facts, connecting the dots behind. So if we are not going to be students who keep looking for the truth, we will be misled and we will perish like fools. So as I was saying, we in the 21st century, we have a lot of data. We are in the information age. We are not in that industrial age. We are not in the Stone Age. We are in information age where people trade on information. So the more data, if I have your details or the details of the whole Kenya, I am a very rich person even without money because somebody will look for me. And that's why when we are taking all those, we are putting in our details everywhere, we just know that, well, we may not have a choice, but somebody could be using them. You see, somebody could be trading on them. We are in an era of AI, yeah, artificial intelligence. So we must know how is it applicable in our situation, because those are the challenges that we have. Every time you're logging into something, you're trying to buy something online, somebody is monitoring. You see, those are the challenges that we have today. Today we have what we call, we used to talk of data mining. Today we talk of big data. Data mining means we have a lot of data and we are trying to look for information in that data. We are mining, like mining gold. You see, now today we have a lot of people who do not want to think. They believe Google. You Google and that is it. You don't even check who wrote this. What credentials do they have? What have they studied? And if they have that credential, maybe this is Dr. So-and-so from New York, wherever. Now, who else separately is saying the same thing? Is there any other person saying the same thing? And does it agree with already known facts, already known knowledge where we are right now? Does it agree with literature? If it doesn't agree, there is a reason to start doing your own investigation. You see, and that's the way scientists have always come up with different things. That's the way Einstein came up with something, because he was able to figure out and reason things together and add other things. You see, yeah, I keep asking people, what was unique about Newton? Yeah, what was unique about Newton? Everyone was seeing things falling. What was unique? What was he wondering? What was he thinking? Yeah, how many of us ever thought of, well, okay, let's say what's the area of how do we find the area of a triangle? Any mathematician here? Area of a triangle? Nobody knows. We need to Google, right?
Area of a
Yes,
triangle,
Irene.
half base times height.
Good. Half base times height. Why is it half base times height?
Because okay, in my thinking, I think that since the
No, it's not
triangle,
half. Yeah, it's half base times height. Half length times width. Yes, because it's a
yeah,
triangle.
because that part where it's forming a pyramid, that space on one side and the other side, it can form a full, form a full square or a rectangle. It's
And
like
what
you're
is the
cutting.
area of a rectangle? And the
Yeah.
area of a rectangle, we were told, is base times height or length times width, right?
Yeah.
And why is it length times width?
For area of a rectangle or a square,
Yeah.
mwalimu alisema.
Yeah. So for us who are students, we need to know why. Why is it so? What makes it? Who came up with this? What was he thinking? How did he come up with that formula? Yeah. So you derive that formula. You find, wenyewe, this is what it is, and this is why it is so. You see, if you are told that if you drop two balls with different weights and they are falling down, maybe one will have a bigger impact than the other. The question is why? What is causing that? So a thinker, a critical thinker, wants to understand why. It's not just picking things and saying, okay, we are told God made us. God made us. Why? And where is he? Why was he interested in us? And all sorts of things. It makes you a better student. It makes you more able to reason things together, and you will be a better believer for that. You see, if you're told when you boil this, whatever, when you put litmus paper into what, it turns blue, and whatever what is causing it to turn, that is what you want to know. You see, so you dig into those details. Yeah, we now have more information to analyze, and hence laziness will not work for us. Today, more scientists are selling their names and credentials for the highest bidders. If we say the sun is cold and published a paper on the same, we say new study. So actually, the latest study says that the sun is cold. And then there is peer-reviewed paper. People will say, by the way, do you know the sun is cold? How do you prove? The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. And it makes sense. And people will start believing, anyway, I think the sun is cold. And by the end of the day, everyone will believe it, because if a lie is repeated enough times, it becomes true. So we've gone into this idea of peer-reviewed, whatever, latest study, without necessarily thinking logically about them and verifying the facts to the extent that we can. Yeah. That has caused a lot of politics nowadays, because if I have money, I can skew a research, and then it gives the interest that I want. Always, we need to ask ourselves, there is a big question I love asking: what is the interest? What interest does this guy have? Does this lady have? What is the interest? What is their interest? There is always some interest around. Who is funding? What is the interest of the funder? What is in it for them? I will give you a good example. Suppose we have a village, and in this village, let's call it Friendship Village, and people love dogs, and they rear mini dogs. Then there is a certain person there, let's call him Cain, the brother of Abel, and he sells dogs in this village of Friendship where people love dogs. He sells dogs, and he sells food for dogs. He sells to the villagers. Let's say that there is a certain person called Gates, and Gates is selling medicine for dogs and treats dogs. So we have two people, sellers here. One is selling dogs and food. One sells medicine and also treats dogs. He's a vet. And then there is a manufacturer. Let's call this manufacturer Sierra. Manufactures drugs for dogs. And then you hear that Sierra is funding a project in Friendship Village where they love dogs to come up with the best breeds of dogs that grow bigger and are more beautiful, allegedly also living longer. What is sinister there? What would catch your attention? Yes, anybody who Anybody would say something there? We have Gates selling dogs treatment and also treating dogs. We have Sierra, who is a manufacturer of the medicine for dogs, and now funding a research that would bring healthier, not healthier, but bigger dogs and more beautiful. And the claims that they will live. What interest? Do you think he wants dogs that are healthier now that he makes medicine? Anybody would like to say something? Yeah, we have no time. It's not likely, because there is a possibility that he is going to bring up, well, more beautiful dogs and maybe growing bigger, but they will be sicker, so that his medicine is sold. More medicines are sold, and more so if he is supported by Gates, who happens to sell dog medicine and treats dogs. Then they have a business opportunity, because this is a village that loves dogs. In other words, that is just an example of what critical thinking will help you to do. You figure out situations. You figure out situations. And so, in conclusion, I'd like us to say that we must train our minds not to be lazy. Remember the law of use and disuse. What you don't use, you lose. Remember that other people have interests, and you've got to dig into their interests. You've got to be this person who asks why. You find a reason to believe what you are told to believe, what somebody says. Don't over rely on authority simply because a doctor said, or a pastor said, or government said. No, verify your own facts. Be somebody who asks why not, what if, there is the other side of what if. What if I do it? What if I don't do it? What are the two extremes? You see, you try to dig into data, do your own research. Before you believe something, before you use fact checker, also ask, who owns this fact checker? Could it be the same person who posted this misleading information and then goes ahead to make it to be verifiable? Yes? Let's be amongst the 2% who think. When we find ourselves on the majority, let's engage. Thank you and God bless you. Anybody with a comment, a question as I close?